Crawfordland Castle in southwest Scotland is one of the country's last hidden treasures. But now struggling to pay its way, it's at a crucial turning point in its 800-year history. Simon Crawford, the 28th Laird, and his wife Aditi have just moved in to try and rescue the house where he grew up.
For me, it's coming home, and that's been one of my inspirations of wanting to be here.
With huge running costs and no money to cover them, they have asked businessman Simon Davis to find the radical solutions that will breathe new life into their crumbling home.
How long have you got before it starts to get very, very troubling? 6 months at the most.
With only months to turn Crawfordland's fortunes around, can Simon help this 21st century family save their 14th century castle?
They just think, oh, what have I done to deserve this?
I don't feel that we've got as far as I'd like to have got.
They're ruined. Never done haggis pakora before.
Putting it bluntly, at the moment, would this make the grade?
Not yet.
It's going to be all hands on deck if we're going to make this work.
Yeah, I'll give it.
Crawfordland, a castle dating back over 8 centuries, is hidden away in 600 acres of Ayrshire in southwest Scotland. It's been home to the Crawford family since 1245, but constant maintenance of the fragile property has become a huge financial drain. The 27th Laird, Peter Crawford, spent over £300,000 on its upkeep until age and ill health forced him to move out 2 years ago and rent out the whole property. Now, in a bid to reclaim the family home, his son Simon Crawford and his wife Aditi have moved in, and they must make it earn its keep.
It's a very daunting project to kind of take on. We need to work out how we're going to actually raise enough money to make the castle somewhere that we can live in.
But moving back into Simon's childhood home wasn't an easy choice. They've given up their modest 3-bedroom cottage for a dilapidated 35-room castle with huge debts.
Our costs have slightly changed.
Yes.
A small 1952 workers' cottage has some slightly different running costs to an 11-bedroom castle.
And we're just about to triple our mortgage to come and live here.
Simon and Aditi have raised enough finance to give themselves 6 months' grace. If by the end of that time they don't have a successful business in place, 800 years of history and 28 generations of Crawfords living in the castle will come to an end.
There isn't an option to quit, because if you quit, then the family loses the history, so you have to keep going.
But if they're going to save their family home, they needed to start making money. So they've called in business consultant Simon Davis.
Right, so this is the entrance. Not particularly inviting. For access, call as a mobile phone number, so... Hello, is that Simon Crawford?
Yes, it is.
Hello, it's Simon Davis here. I'm at your gates, and can you let me in?
But, yeah, of course. I'll hang up and I'll let you in. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
With a proven track record in saving struggling businesses with radical new solutions, the Crawfords hope Simon can channel their passion and energy into a winning business formula.
We've got lots of ideas, that's our biggest problem. And it'd be really good with someone with expertise to kind of focus us a bit more. Go for this is what you do, these are your aims, and that's where you should be.
Simon.
Hi, Simon.
Simon Davis. How do you do?
My wife
Hi.
Aditi.
Aditi, how do you do?
Good, thank you.
So Crawfordland. This is your new home, I believe.
It's our new home.
So how long have you actually been here?
800 years.
800 years?
Yes.
Yeah, you look fresh on it.
Thank you.
Now, how long have you actually lived here yourselves? Though?
2.5 weeks.
Just 2.5
Yeah.
weeks. So this is all very new.
Indeed it is.
I look forward to hearing more about it when we go inside. Should we go inside
Yeah,
and I can
come on
take a
in.
look? You can show me around. Bit of work needed here.
Yeah, there's a bit of paintwork.
Interesting colour. Very bold.
Yeah, it's nice and warm. I suppose cold castle.
Warm is one word for it. It needs a bit of work, doesn't it?
Well,
Put it bluntly. Because I mean, up here, if you look, I mean,
yes.
that's crumbling away, isn't it?
Yes.
If you go through it quickly and don't look too closely, everything looks fine.
Yeah.
It's when you stop and actually look a bit closer.
Yeah, it's my job to look closely.
Yeah, well,
That's why I'm here.
yes, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
the situation at the moment, financially here, is, I mean, poor.
Simon Crawford manages the 600-acre estate, but Aditi, who works full-time as a medical rep, is the main breadwinner.
I get scared all the time. I worry what's going to happen and how we're going to pay all the debts back and what if it doesn't work. And yes, I do have my moments of darkness and doubt, but I think, what have I done?
But Crawford Land is more than just a family home that needs to be saved. It's a monument to British history. With a 17th century plaster ceiling decorated in preparation for a visit from Charles I, a 19th century tapestry made for Simon's great-grandfather, Viscount Kemsley, and letters handwritten by Mary Queen of Scots.
Bloody hell, that's another good colour you've got in here.
And beyond the acid yellow walls, the library boasts a collection of over 2,000 books, some dating back to the 1500s, and family trees showing links to the 13th century rebel fighter and national hero, William Wallace.
Just seeing all these wonderful old leather-bound books here, you know, it really reeks of history.
Yeah.
What's the really exciting bit of your family history? What's the bit that people can really get their teeth into?
Well, our connection to William Wallace is quite a good one. Wallace's mother was a Crawford.
So you're a direct descendant of William Wallace, then?
Yes.
Doesn't get much bigger than that
No,
in
it's
Scotland, does
pretty
it?
good. It's pretty good. Yes.
I mean, potentially you've got one of the last great unlocked Scottish
Yeah.
castles,
Yeah.
which is exciting.
30 years ago, to try and generate some much-needed income, Simon's parents divided the castle to create a separate rental property. Known as the Tower House, it has its own kitchen, 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a grand Georgian drawing room. The Crawfords plan to rent it out for self-catering holiday lets, with accommodation for 10 people and charging up to £1,500 a week. To get a better understanding of how it might work, Simon Davis will be staying the night.
It's a pretty impressive space, isn't it?
It used to be the dining room when the house had its last kind of building period in the Victorian times. So this would be in the banqueting hall.
So I'm sleeping up there.
Yes.
And if this area would be part of the self-catering area.
Well, this would be a suite.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I better get my bags, actually, because I don't have my stuff, so I was going to nip down and get that.
Spending the night will give Simon the crucial time he needs to formulate his business plan to save the castle. And to find out more, he's going to have dinner with the Crawfords.
Oh, where's the hand for serving the rice?
Moving into the self-catering and hospitality industry is a world away from the Crawfords' backgrounds of estate management and medical sales. Simon Davis is concerned that they are taking on an area of business they know nothing about.
We have no experience of hospitality at all, other than that we used to throw the odd small dinner party at the cottage. So this place faces quite a big challenge for us with regards to that.
I hope he likes Indian food. Oh, we should have got peanuts.
Good evening.
Evening, how are you?
How are you? Happy to see you again.
Yeah.
So do you like hosting? Are you into the idea of hosting people?
We did it more, didn't we, before the kids? But yes.
It's a big difference, though, isn't there, between having dinner parties and hosting your friends and hosting paying punters?
We're both certainly up for it anyway.
The Crawfords have increased their total borrowings to £725,000, which will allow them £80,000 for immediate repairs and maintenance. They may have moved in just under 3 weeks ago, but Simon wants them to face up to the seriousness of their financial situation.
What, in your estimation, is the annual cost to live in the castle, upkeep?
30,000 a year.
About 30,000 a year.
Yeah, that's kind of insurance,
Heating,
tax and heating.
council tax, electricity.
What about maintenance? I've seen, as I've been around, there is quite a lot of work that needs doing here.
Potentially up to £100,000. Unfortunately, that doesn't even start painting the hall.
I'm not even going to
in
ask
there.
you for a number for a total renovation. I'm talking about the stuff that immediately we'll be doing in the ideal world.
Yeah.
I mean, are you aware of the difficulties that you're facing?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we need to make it a success, and we need to make it a success quickly. You know.
How long have you got before it starts to get very, very troubling?
6 months at the most.
We need to be in a position where we feel confident that we've got a business that's going to work come end of March, end of April.
It's going to be all hands on deck if we're going to make this work.
They are in serious financial straits, you know. They're mortgaged to the hilts. They've got huge amounts of upkeep, potentially huge maintenance problems. And at the moment, I can't quite see a way out of it.
With the castle in dire financial straits and just 6 months to reverse its fortunes, Simon must find a solution for Crawfordland quickly.
Your financial situation is perilous.
But he's only just scratched the surface.
This is where the romance of owning this castle ends. The place is an absolute mess.
Crawfordland, in a remote corner of southwest Scotland, has been the Crawford family seat since 1245. And, less than 3 weeks ago, the 28th Laird, Simon Crawford, and his wife Aditi moved from their modest 1950s cottage to this 14th century castle in a bid to try and save its wealth of heritage. While the original tower house is thought to date back to the 1300s, the main part of the house was added in the 16th century. The final additions, including the Gothic facade, were made in 1850 by Simon's great-great-grandfather, William Hewson Crawford. After 800 years here, the Crawfords hold a remarkable place in Scottish history. As well as connections to William Wallace and Mary Queen of Scots, in the 1400s, Jock Hewson, a Crawford ancestor, saved the life of James II of Scotland. This forged a link between the Crawfords and the royal family, which survives to this day. Ever since, any monarch visiting Scotland for the first time has their hands washed by the current Laird of Crawfordland using a silver jug and bowl. Despite its illustrious history, Crawfordland remains largely unknown to the outside world. It has a mounting repair bill of over £100,000 and costs £30,000 a year to run.
People do assume that because you're living in a castle, you're really rich, etc. No, we're not rich. In India, we have a saying, I think there's a similar saying here actually, loads of land and no cash.
With only 6 months to turn it from a crumbling relic into a thriving business before their money runs out, the Crawfords have called in entrepreneur Simon Davis to unlock its hidden potential. Simon has spent the night in the half of the house which the Crawfords hope to run as a self-catering holiday let.
Well, you can see it's a pretty fabulous room here, huge vaulted ceilings, and it's a pretty amazing bedroom, very grand, and a real sense of feeling like you're staying in a castle, which is a real treat.
With half a castle to himself, Simon sets off to explore. This side of the property is built around the original 14th century tower, and at its heart lies a stone spiral staircase which leads him to a hidden gem with huge potential for extra accommodation.
Just brilliant coming up those stone spiral staircases. Really gives you a sense of being in a castle, and we're at the top here and you can see all the castellations outside. It's a real sort of famous five feel. This room at the moment is a complete tip, obviously, but that can be sorted out. This is a great potential space and they need to do something with it and make it earn money.
Self-catering guests will have the use of the tower house's dining room, which is where Simon makes another important discovery.
There are just oodles of these family portraits around this house, but they all seem to be all over the place. It's a bit of a hodgepodge. This one up here on the right-hand side, it says it's painted by Rayburn. Now, you know, he's a preeminent artist. But here it is, stuck in the corner of this room. It's pretty dirty. The frame is completely knackered. And really, he's looking after, and it really needs to be seen by people.
But at Crawfordland, it seems that for every treasure, there is a hidden horror.
This is where the romance of owning this castle ends. I've just come up one of the stone spiral staircases and the place is an absolute mess. It looks like it's completely falling down. I'm not even going to go through there, because if I fall through that roof, I'm going to go arse over tit through King Charles I ceiling, and that will not go down very well.
Despite the castle's fragile state of repair and the financial burden it carries, Simon Crawford has no regrets about bringing his family to live here.
For me, it's coming home. And that's been one of my inspirations of wanting to be here. And to bring the girls home, so that they can enjoy the castle and the surroundings the way I did as a child.
For Aditi, who got engaged and married at Crawfordland, the emotional pull may be strong, but with only 6 months until their money runs out, she's feeling the pressure.
I think what scares me the most is how much money is it going to take to keep it going.
You seem to be, through your job, financing quite a lot of the situations in here, so there's a lot of pressure on you for that. Do you sometimes sort of think, is this going to be too much for me?
Yeah, sometimes I do, and I just think, oh, what have I done to deserve this? But I think the one thing Simon and I have in common is we're both fighters and we're both drivers, and we just keep going and keep going and keep going.
Crawfordland is just 30 miles from Glasgow, but the problem is it remains largely unknown to visitors. Although the 600-acre estate makes a small income from a trout fishery and mountain bike trails, with his track record of unconventional business solutions, Simon has hit on a money-making idea to put Crawfordland on the map, which capitalises on its natural resources: land, inclement weather and mud.
Thanks very much, Kester, for joining me down this grisly day.
Simon's invited Kester Wilkinson, whose company specialises in extreme endurance races, to come to Crawfordland in the hope that it is suitable for the latest sporting craze of mud running.
Up to my understanding, it's cross-country running, but with these extra obstacles, and you get absolutely filthy.
Essentially, in a nutshell, it's developed, particularly in the States over the last few years, where people will run 8, 10 miles, and within that run will be some really muddy, boggy pits and perhaps some obstacles that people will struggle through.
You had a chance to have a look around to see if this is a potential site?
I have had a look. I mean, it's got a good mix of terrain. And you've got a river and a really nasty swamp.
I must notice all that bog over there as well. I mean,
it's pretty horrible.
This is what they want.
Yes, exactly.
That's what they pay for. What about money?
You're not exposing yourself to a big upfront financial cost, other than the hard graft to get the course right, to get the obstacles right, and your initial marketing.
Now, the more I think about it, the more I think it's time to get muddy here.
Having gathered all the information he needs, Simon is ready to deliver his business plan to help safeguard the future of Crawfordland.
You've only been here 2.5 weeks. Appreciate that. But I think it's going to be a very short honeymoon period. Your financial situation is perilous.
Simon thinks that what will save Crawfordland is not just a run-of-the-mill self-catering holiday let, but something that only the 28th Laird can offer.
For me, one of the most compelling things that I've taken from visiting here is the history. It has far, far more history than your average self-catering accommodation. In my view, you could create something quite unique by bringing together this compelling history with the self-catering to create a sort of historic self-catering operation. So how do you go about doing that? My view is the drawing room is the best room on that side of the house. I would like to see that become an epicenter for all the most important historical artefacts you have here. In essence, a living museum for Crawfordland. Right. So when people come and stay and they can see all the best things that you've got, I think it will be a real selling point.
As well as unleashing Crawfordland's hidden history, Simon wants to make the most of the quirkiness that the Tower House could offer.
I think that wonderful crow's nest room up in the roof, up the spiral staircase. And I think you should look to convert that into a room where children can stay, like a little children's dormitory. Not only will that give you extra accommodation, but it's quite a good marketing tool. Were we to really push that heritage side, then rooms that you currently charge at £1,500 a week could realise 3,000.
Wow.
Think of an American who's coming over here and he's staying in an 800-year-old castle and the laird still lives next door.
Yeah.
He'll pay £3,000 a week with his friends.
With a neighbouring castle attracting nearly 1 million visitors every year, Simon must find a way to put this unknown treasure on the tourist map. Inspired by what the estate has in abundance, he's come up with a clever marketing strategy.
My idea is that we run an event such as mud running. I don't know if you know about mud running.
Sounds
The
fun.
clue's in the title, essentially. It's a sort of turbocharged cross-country. You can have 500, 1,000, up to 5,000 people taking part in these sort of races. If we charge £50 and have 1,000 people taking part, that's £50,000 of revenue. That's good money.
I'd never even heard of it. It sounds brilliant.
You have a lot of mud.
Yes.
Simon will return in a few weeks when he will put the Crawfords' hospitality skills to the test by getting them to host a trial dinner that must impress some of Scotland's most influential tourism experts.
Having Simon's next visit already looming on us, it gives a real impetus of let's buckle down to it. I've got a new project that needs doing, and it needs doing now, because if we don't deal with it now, we're going to be in trouble.
Girls, go and help Daddy, please.
What can I do?
Put the big box down.
Fired up by Simon's idea
put
of
that up for
creating
me.
a mini Crawfordland museum in the Tower House, the Crawfords start a treasure hunt for interesting artefacts.
We've got this silverware. That's an obvious object to have somewhere, isn't it? You hold the pretty bowl.
Wow, Indra.
So we put those two in the cabinet.
Yeah.
The silverware used for royal hand-washing ceremonies is the first item to go into the Crawfordland Museum.
Great picture, that one.
And whilst hunting through the family archives, Simon has even found a handwritten poem by the celebrated 18th century Scottish poet Robert Burns.
To kind of touch and hold a piece of paper that was originally written on by Robert Burns is phenomenal.
Wanting the Crawfords to understand that history sells, Simon is sending them away from Crawfordland to the Tower of Holbar. This 16th century defence tower in the Clyde Valley has capitalised on its history and created an original holiday let.
Hello, welcome to Holbar. So come through. It's one room a floor, but do be careful of the tight staircase.
This house may sleep only 7 people, less than the capacity of Crawfordland, but its historic charm means that guests are willing to pay up to £1,200 a week.
And then through into the Great Hall. It's not that great in scale, but
Wow.
this is the main living room of the castle. So if we come through yet another flight of stairs,
My goodness.
so we've now reaching the top of the tower, and you come outside onto the parapet, and then go in to the double bedroom, up in the garrets.
The garrets. That's
Yes.
the correct word.
That's
what we should call it.
Yes, the garret.
The garret.
It's the largest bedroom, although you have to go outside to get to it. But it's quite a long way to the loo. And of course, you then have the other door onto the other parapet walk.
Oh,
And here, isn't it wonderful? So that is Holbar.
Inspired by their visit to the Tower of Holbar, the Crawfords get straight to work on their own self-catering tower house.
We've done some decorating the house, kitchen, dining room and the stairs. That was involved taking all the pictures down.
Cleaning the frames.
And then we cleaned all the frames while they were down.
It's one of the ladies of Crawfordland, Alicia. Careful. I think it's about right.
Another job done.
And with the transformation of the hallway complete, Simon starts to clear out their garret to create a children's dormitory for family holidays. But when Simon Davis returns, will a trial mud run prove to be a step too far? And will he find the Crawfords' hospitality skills lacking?
Follow me.
When they host a dinner for some of the country's most influential tourism experts.
You can have a wonderful house, and if the people are very boring, then
No pressure.
then forget it.
It's January, and at Crawfordland, Simon and Aditi have only enough money to last until the tourist season begins in April. So it's crucial that they have their historic self-catering operation open in time. With no margin for error, businessman Simon Davis is returning to Scotland to make sure they're on schedule.
So this is one of our big changes.
I can see you've changed the colour.
If you like.
Well, I like it because it's much, much lighter.
Yes.
And gives much more sense of space, and it shows off the paintings much better. I'm not a huge peach fan, personally, but I think it's a marked improvement on what you had before.
Although the redevelopment of the self-catering is making good progress, the castle's biggest problem is that it's hidden away from the outside world. Simon Davis has suggested hosting a mud running event that should draw in visitors and show off what Crawfordland has to offer.
Come on, dogs. Let's
With
go.
the first mud running event scheduled for just 2 months' time, Simon wants to ensure that the course is absolutely right.
So what's the form? What are we going to do?
Events organiser Kester Wilkinson has returned to lead the way.
Okay. And how long would it usually be?
Well, this course we're going to look at is about 10k. But
10k? We're not doing that now, are we?
We'll do most of it.
I'm being beaten by a three-legged dog. It's not good enough. We're the guinea pigs, basically.
Simon Davis wants this to become a regular event at Crawfordland. Although their first one may only attract a small crowd, an established mud running event could raise up to £50,000 in ticket sales.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, Jesus.
Told you it was funny in here. Whoa! I've lost my shoe. Lost my bloody shoe already.
So what do you think of the course?
Yeah, I mean, we can't run through mud like that the whole way.
No.
But coming down onto the field, onto the river and then up, it's just really lovely. And you want people to have a nice cross-country run. You don't want them to have a miserable time, so you want them to show them all the estate has got, really.
Is it a good idea to wear trousers?
Well, I'd start with doing up your shoelaces.
I think that's too deep, don't you?
While Simon hopes that mud running will put the estate on the map, his plan to get the castle to make money is to put a new spin on the self-catering holiday experience. He wants the Crawfords to make a feature of the castle's extraordinary history. On his last visit, Simon unearthed a painting said to be by the eminent 18th century artist Raeburn.
I've taken the Raeburn off the wall so we can have a good look at it on an easel upstairs.
Oh, brilliant.
He's invited James Holloway, director of the Scottish National Portrait Gallery, to verify its authenticity.
So James, tell us a little bit about Raeburn.
Well, he was the sort of preeminent portrait painter in Scotland in the sort of 1790s, right up to his death in 1823. He painted really the great and the good of Scotland in the early years of the 19th century. He's a fabulous painter.
And is this a Raeburn?
Can I look at it with a torch?
Of course, yeah.
What are you looking for when you're doing that, James?
Looking at the quality of the painting of the eyes to see how good it is. There were one or two Raeburn imitators who were not nearly as good, and things like the eyes sort of just give you a little idea. Raeburn was really deft with his use of paint, and just little flicks just animate everything.
And is it a Raeburn?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is?
No, it's very nicely observed.
To relief.
Yes. It's so nice to come into a house like this, which has such fantastic rich history. You just look around the walls and the families here. It doesn't mean that they're all by the greatest artists of their time.
Yeah.
I'm rather fond of her because I love that sort of matron's cap about sort of 1705, 1710. We're looking at Scotland about the time of the union with England. It's when Queen Anne was on the throne. Great frame, you know, it's all original. I mean, that's something that really sort of thrills me. See something like that in a house like this, it makes sense here.
But such a treasure trove is useless when it's completely unknown to the outside world. So tonight, to show off the castle's history and test the Crawfords' fledgling hospitality skills, Simon wants them to host a dinner for some of the most influential figures in Scottish tourism, with the Laird sharing some of his wealth of historical knowledge.
I think Lisa and I both like to kind of fly slightly by the seat of our pants, so that's probably the way tonight will go. And hopefully it will be successful.
As it's the 25th of January, the Crawfords have made the bold decision to host the first ever Indian-themed Burns Night dinner.
I'm trying to get the last bits of the starter ready. I have no idea what I'm going to wear. What colour would Robbie Burns wear? What colour is he associated with? Yes, it's going to be interesting. I'm panicking, that's why I'm rabbiting. We need to move the dogs' beds from just outside the dining room.
In addition to tourism representatives, the evening's guests include Alistair Saudet, one of Britain's most influential authorities on places to stay. His opinion can make or break the reputation of any establishment. The success of the night will depend on the Laird's portrayal of the castle's unique history.
Crawfordland started its life in 1245, and we've had Crawfords living here virtually non-stop since then. And I hope that this evening you'll enjoy a good dinner, and I hope to also kind of retail some of the stories that go along with the ancestors that go back into Crawfordland. Follow me.
In your work, do you find that this is being done, this kind of Laird's dinner,
Yes,
people hosting things?
in our bed and breakfast books, for example, in Britain and France, you can find beautiful houses owned by lovely people who will engage with you in conversation over dinner. But the stories must be good ones, you know. I mean, any old story won't be enough. You can have a wonderful house, and if the people are very boring, then
No pressure.
Then forget it.
In the kitchen, Aditi's struggling with her Indian take on the traditional Burns Night haggis.
They're ruined. I've never done this haggis pakora before. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
With the pakoras burnt, she needs to remake them all from scratch.
It's not easy, Lisa, it's not easy. Do you want me to start plating up the other elements of it, yeah? Make them round and I'll clear that later.
Right, okay.
You take those. This is a very difficult exercise, but it's the best way to learn. If you just sit at the table and talk about how you should do it, you're not going to learn a thing. You've got to actually go out there and do it. So for that reason, I think it's brilliant.
After a delay of just 10 minutes, Aditi manages to serve her haggis pakoras, and the guests are none the wiser.
Very, very good, Aditi.
It is delicious, yummy.
Encouraged by the success of the food, Simon overcomes his natural reticence to share his recently discovered Robert Burns poem.
In our research, we found a very exciting piece of paper, which is an original piece of writing by Robert Burns on its original piece of paper.
No. Are you having a song?
No, this is genuine. And it's an epitaph to a lady who has passed away. To be fair, I don't think she was the bonniest of lassies, and certainly when she died, she certainly wasn't. Here lies with death's old grizzle grim, Lincluden's ugly witch. O death, what a taste have thou, can't lie with such a bitch. So, she wasn't, there we go.
That's a remarkable find.
It was a fantastic find.
They are in that cupboard down there.
As the evening draws to a close, Simon Davis takes the opportunity to ask the guests what they think of the Crawfords' first attempt at hospitality.
I think they're doing a really good job. I mean, I think Simon's they're a little bit nervous, obviously, with good reason. And once they warm up, I think they'll be much more easy.
I think we've got the history, we just haven't brought it to life. Yeah. I think that's the bit that's missing.
Putting it bluntly, at the moment, would this make the grade?
Not yet, no. I think the Indian connection is delightful. I think they just need to learn how to give it panache.
Before he heads back to London, Simon wants to make sure the Crawfords are still on course for the launch of their self-catering business in just 3 months' time.
Last night was a situation that was created to really push you to the limit. You've now experienced the coalface of hospitality. Do you think you've made the right choice?
Well, I just hope that we can manage to get all the changes we want to do to the house through quickly, because if we don't get that done, then we're in the concern of kind of missing this year as a commercial year, which could be difficult for us financially to deal with.
Is it snowing?
It is snowing.
Yeah, it's coming down quite strong.
I hope you're not going down the M74.
As spring comes to Crawfordland, Simon Crawford works tirelessly on the tower house, taking down the ceiling in the garage, which will become the children's dormitory, and putting the finishing touches to the Crawfordland Museum display. In 24 hours' time, the gates will be thrown open to host Crawfordland's first ever mud running event, which Simon Davis believes will finally put the castle on the map. So the 28th Laird is hard at work clearing the 10-kilometre course.
This one?
And Aditi and the girls are preparing goodie bags for the competitors, which include leaflets advertising the estate's businesses. Knowing this one event could be the turning point for Crawfordland's fortunes, Simon Davis is returning to make sure that the Crawfords are really making the most of its marketing potential.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the mud running event at Crawfordland, but I really hope that Simon and Aditi have cottoned on to the fact that the event needs to throw a spotlight on everything else that happens here. Hi, Aditi.
Hi, how you doing?
Very well. How are you?
T-shirts, not
Very
too
good
bad
to
at
see
all.
you. I'd love to see inside, see what you've been up to.
As the mud running preparations continue in the grounds, Aditi wants to show Simon the progress of the garret room in the self-catering tower house.
Wow, there's some serious work gone on in here, isn't there?
Yes, Simon took the ceiling down. He's taken the horse plaster walls down.
So Simon's done all this himself?
Yes. Sometimes we'd be thinking, we'd like to have done more, but I think when we're realistic about it, the fact the two of us are trying to do it together ourselves, I think we've done quite a lot.
Well, this might look like it's completely and utterly dishevelled, but actually I can see a hell of a lot of work's been done. And this will be the children's dorm, essentially, for when people come for the self-catering.
Yeah.
It'd be great up here, it'd be fantastic.
Big bean bag and TV in the corner, etc., etc.
It's great.
But as Crawfordland is about to be opened to the public for the first time in its 800-year history, Simon has found out that the Crawfords are throwing away this huge marketing opportunity by not inviting the visitors into the tower house to show off the historic self-catering business they've created.
What you don't want is 100 people coming here and leaving here and none of them knowing that you're going to be offering self-catering. That would be insane. I know you're reticent about it, Simon.
Yeah, because I don't feel that we've got as far as I'd like to have got. When we set out the beginning of this journey with you, I had hoped by the end of it we would be a lot further forward than we are.
Well, I think you're giving yourself a tough time.
Well, maybe, but that's part of my own critique.
I think you should give yourself a break, Simon, frankly, because I think you've done a fantastic job. And I think you should show off a bit about it. I don't think you should be ashamed and say we haven't done as much as we expected to do. Those people won't realise that. Be proud of what you've achieved so far. The fact that you're introducing them to this potential new business, and you've got this captive audience. Mm-hmm. And that was the point of doing the mud running. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what do you think, Simon?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of maximising marketing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, great, fantastic.
Yeah.
After 5 months of planning and hard work, the Crawfords have done all they can. Now they can only wait and see if it will all have been worth it.
So is this where everyone registers?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then they can come in, and we have that door ajar a bit, we can see the window. And good. Well, that's the people who start to arrive, actually. Runners are starting to come. So. Hi there, you all checked in?
Yes, we are.
Oh, good. How far have you come today?
354 miles.
354 miles. Hi there, everyone. Hi there, you all ready? Yeah. You ready for the off? Yeah. Well, I've been round the course here, you're going to get filthy. Fantastic turnout.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Can't believe it. It's really just so exciting.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
On the start line,
I think you're going to be ready for the off in a minute. Good. Best of luck on the run.
Ready to go.
All right. I'll be cheering you on. Take care.
We're very grateful today. I mean, thank you for coming to our first Mud Runner Equinox in Scotland. Have a good time.
Go on, the lad.
With a final turnout of over 100 runners, Crawfordland has made a name for itself as an exciting destination.
Well done.
And the event has generated over £2,000 in ticket sales.
Well done, Alex. Well done, Simon.
Absolutely dead. That was insane.
Well done, you're the winner. That's all right. How was it?
Pretty tough.
You do it again?
Definitely come back, get all my friends to come do it and see them suffer as well.
That's what we want to hear. Will you be back to do the next mud run?
Yep, definitely.
Excellent.
I beat my grandpa as well.
Oh, you wee liar.
Enjoy that.
Oh, tremendous.
Good. You do the next one then?
Oh, aye, definitely. Tremendous.
Thanks, girls. Thank you very much. Come in tight. Well done. Well done. Oh, God. Great. Everyone seems to be having a very amusing time. It's brilliant, actually. I haven't fully immersed myself in the mud run, but I've got involved in the fun bit afterwards.
So come on in.
Buoyed by the success of the mud run, Simon Crawford proudly shows off the self-catering tower house as a work in progress, including the new Crawfordland Museum.
This is our most notable painting. It's by a guy called William Rayburn. When I mentioned the King James Association, this silverware was used to carry out that ceremony for King George IV in 1822.
After 5 months of collaboration with Simon Davis, the Crawfords have their first self-catering bookings, and the next mud run is already scheduled for the autumn. Simon's ideas have the potential to generate an additional £45,000 of turnover in the next year. And, with only a month to go before their deadline, the extra revenue will give them the breathing space they need to continue their renovations.
Today we've had this fantastic event where we've had 150, 200 people in here, and you've taken over £2,000 in ticket sales. Now, I know it's just a start, but what a fantastic start. Did you enjoy the day, Simon?
Loved it. I've loved it from start to finish. Seeing the house transformed into a venue for an event was fantastic. The thing I think I've really learned over the last few months is how much people appreciate Crawfordland and what it has to offer and the history and the house, which for me is big. It's a big thing.
I think the fear is that there's an image of people who live in houses like this, the aristocracy, you know, that they think it's their God-given right, So we almost kind of pull back because you think, well, if we talk about it, people might think that we're these pompous people.
But I don't think you're, you know, of all the people that I've met who've lived in houses such as yours, you're the least pompous, the least grand. And I think that came across today.
Yeah.
There was no us and them. And I think actually, you know, we live in a time now, in a society now, where if you're going to make a success of Crawfordland, if there was an us and them, it's going to fail. You've achieved what we've achieved here in 5 months. Yeah. Imagine what you can do in 5 years. I'm so impressed that Simon and Aditi had the courage to take on Crawfordland Castle. So many people wouldn't have done. I've every confidence that this home will be in the Crawford family for another 800 years.
This is Meldon Park, a Grade 2 listed mansion in Northumberland. This historic estate has been in the Cookson family for nearly 200 years. Today the house is lived in by James and Emily Cookson with their 3 young daughters, but they're struggling to make ends meet.
I feel sick when I walk up outside and I see the smoke going up the chimney, knowing that it's costing me £10 an hour.
Maintaining the house is a never-ending task, and the jobs keep mounting up.
The money's not coming in, but it's going out.
Can businessman Simon Davis help revitalise this ailing estate and show the couple that they must work in harmony if they are to avoid it being lost to the family forever?
Do you work well together, do you think?
I think sometimes we find it easier not to.
You seem to suggest that I will arrive and just wave my magic wand and suddenly money will fall from the sky.
James holds the purse strings. I've got a bank account open, but I've got no money in it.
So it's a grumpy owner on that. You haven't been too grumpy so far.
Not yet.
No. Give it time.
Five miles from Morpeth in Northumberland is Meldon Park, which was built for the wealthy Newcastle merchant Isaac Cookson in 1832. Successive generations have seen the family's fortunes wax and wane, and with it, the size of the estate.
Do you know, you just feel that you're permanently, hemorrhaging money. It's like a leaky bucket at times. You're dealing with all of that. Something else crops up and you think, I've had enough.
Income from the house doesn't keep up with the escalating running costs of £70,000 a year. Parts of the building are starting to crumble, and time is running out.
You can live with it and you can walk past it, but it's a great shame that, you want to keep these properties in the state that they should be kept so that they don't go to rack and ruin.
It's fallen to the 7th generation of the family, James Cookson and his wife Emily, to try and turn it around.
You're throwing money at the place and you're not getting anything back. And at the end of the day, the money ain't coming in.
Time is just never on our side. You're always far-fighting. You're always rushing from one thing to the next.
The couple are desperate to find a solution that will allow them to remain living in this important historic building.
To sell the house would be a very, very difficult decision. It's what I fight on a daily basis not to do.
I very much hope that we will be able to stay and keep this amazing property going.
In a last-ditch attempt to save it, James and Emily have asked businessman and entrepreneur Simon Davis to come to Meldon Park. Can he find the money-making ideas which will secure this estate's survival?
We're slightly bogged down in it, and we're trying to move forwards. You know, fingers crossed, he will come up with that magic idea which is going to, you know, propel us into the next 10 years with, you know, success.
Ah, here we go. Here's the main entrance, quite grand. What on earth that is? It's sort of, looks like they're trying to sell some snowdrops and some wood off a mouldy old table with an honesty box. I should imagine that's the most thriving business. Work to be done.
If we ignore them, the problem is going to get 10 times worse. And so we really have to put it straight. Simon, hi there.
Simon Davis, how do you do?
How do you do? Good to see you.
Emily,
there.
how do you do? Amazing view you've got here.
Yeah.
mate,
Stunning.
fantastic.
Where are we looking at? Is that...
That's directly south, yeah.
Right.
Come on,
Well, it's
come
wonderful.
inside.
I can't wait to see inside.
Simon's tour of the 32-room house starts with the grand hallway.
That's magnificent, isn't it? Phenomenal. So how long have you been here as a family?
We moved in 2001, so 10 years, just
10
over
years.
10 years.
And it works well as a family house? I can see here you have basketball hoops and
Yes.
rocking horses and everything. This is a family home.
Yeah, no, definitely. And in the holidays, everything gets pulled out and wheeled out, and it really is a very entertaining hall.
So despite the fact it looks very grand, it's not a museum?
No,
absolutely
definitely not. No.
The overheads must be significant.
It is costly. I mean, an example is the heating.
Yeah.
And it's £10 an hour in oil.
£10 an hour?
Yeah,
so that gets turned on how often?
As little as possible, to be honest. I mean, I feel sick when I walk up outside and I see the smoke coming out the chimney, knowing that it's costing me £10 an hour.
The couple moved in 2001, but having grown up here, James was well aware of the problems they would face.
I can remember to this day, as a child, when it was raining, putting 20-plus buckets out to catch the drips coming through the roof, because the roof was completely cooked. It just didn't work.
James's parents received a substantial grant to re-roof the entire house. But 30 years later, water damage, especially in the library, is an annual occurrence, and the urgently needed renovations don't stop there.
The main problems which we really got to deal with as soon as we can is our chimney stacks are pretty much rotten.
I mean, what sort of numbers are we talking if you need to redo the chimney stacks on a house like this?
You've got a chimney stack which has got, say, 4 pots, yeah, and you're probably looking at in the region of about £10,000 a stack, and then we've got, 7?
So £70,000 just for the chimney stacks?
Just for the chimney stacks.
And is the house open to the public at all?
No, it's not. It used to be.
What's your view about having people in the house now?
We definitely have people in to do functions or things like that, but I wouldn't like it open all the time. It's a family home.
It's your home.
Yeah.
To get the house to bring in some revenue, James does occasional tours, charging £180 a time for a minimum of 15 guests. But successive generations of Cooksons have had to sell off most of the important artworks and furniture to help pay the ongoing renovation bills, leaving little of historical interest for paying visitors on a more regular basis.
I imagine, James, when you first moved in, that must have been quite a daunting prospect, such a large house.
We knew it was going to be a challenge, but I don't think we knew how big that challenge was actually going to be until we actually lived in it for a certain period. But we did reckon that we would give it 10 years before we would then made the next decision.
And what did you hope to achieve during those 10 years?
We wanted to be able to continue living here, but afford to live here, which means that we wanted to make sure that our income and expenditure, were covering each other.
If after the next 10 years you don't reach that point, what situation are you in then?
We've got to very seriously consider, is it realistic to continue living here?
To discover more about the existing businesses, Simon will be spending the night in the self-catering accommodation, located in a separate wing of the house, and which currently brings in an income of just £7,000 a year.
So the self-catering is very much your operation?
Yes, it is, yes.
Right.
You've got your kitchen in there, Simon.
Okay.
Your sitting room is there.
And how many bedrooms do you have?
It's 2, a twin and a double.
Right, and how often are they occupied?
About half the year.
And what do you charge?
£4.50 for a peak season. Your bedroom's in here.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed.
When you're settled, come over for a drink.
It's pretty clear to me there is a pressing financial situation here. But to come into this pretty nice self-catering accommodation and realise that it's only occupied for half of the year makes me wonder how many other missed opportunities there are.
Yes, we have had many ideas that luckily some of them we haven't started, and others we've thought about, dabbled our toe in the water and then jumped out quickly.
Simon, how are you?
Very well indeed, very well indeed.
You've arrived just at the right moment.
Perfect.
Struggling to make ends meet, James and Emily have thrown themselves into selling the produce grown in the house's walled garden at local markets and on a stall by the side of the driveway.
When I drove in earlier on, I noticed there was a table and a sort of market stall by the side,
Yes.
which looked rather sad and dejected, with an honesty box. What's the story behind all that?
It started when we initially moved in. We had surplus in the garden, and I decided that we should put something out on a barrow. And James said, "Don't be so bloody stupid."
And has it been successful?
I think it's been very successful, and sadly the honesty box has been broken into. But on the whole, most people are pretty generous and pretty good.
So what are the other income streams then?
Well, there's obviously the income off the estate from the rentals. In the last 12 months, just started farming.
I noticed some firewood. That's obviously something?
Yeah, no, we started selling firewood as well, which is another small enterprise. And in the kitchen garden, we've had it let out twice, and unfortunately didn't work on both those occasions.
But although the tenant farms, forestry and other small businesses currently bring in £600,000, it must all be reinvested in the upkeep of the estate, leaving nothing to pay for the restoration of the house.
So how do you divide up the labour here? Who does what? And does it work?
James does all the estate, and I do the house, the garden, and the children.
Do you work well together, do you think?
I think sometimes we find it easier not to.
Would you say that was a fair assessment?
Yeah, no, I think it is fair assessment. We don't work brilliantly together when we are sharing kind of the same project.
Why do you think that is?
I think that we both come at the problems in different ways, and we maybe both think we're right.
James and Emily seem like a charming couple, but increasingly it's clear to me that as business partners, it simply isn't working. And maybe that's the reason why they come up with all these ideas, and none of them seem to make enough money.
But when Simon finds out more about the failed kitchen garden project that's lost them £60,000, can he overcome the Cooksons' apathy?
We're quite busy elsewhere, and time is short.
To be honest, I'm a bit sick of it.
Meldon Park in Northumberland, northeast England. This Grade 2 listed mansion was built between 1832 and 1835 for Isaac Cookson, a wealthy merchant from nearby Newcastle. It was designed by the renowned architect John Dobson, and the clean, unfussy exterior, which showcases Greek architecture and detailing, are characteristic of his style. Internally, parts of the house were remodelled by the equally celebrated architect Edwin Lutyens in the 1920s. In particular, Dobson's iron balustrade was replaced by more elaborate mahogany. James Cookson is the 7th generation of the family to live at Meldon Park, having moved there with his wife Emily and young family in 2001. But the house is losing £40,000 a year, and there is urgent maintenance work needed that will cost well over £100,000. The decision of whether to sell up is looming.
You know, I'd hate to sell the place. I suppose at the end of the day, I'd feel that I've failed.
I mean, you know, it was built for his family. I mean, how can you be the one to say, I can't do this anymore? It's a huge, huge decision.
In a desperate last attempt to save this important part of our heritage, Entrepreneur Simon Davis must come up with a business plan that will safeguard its future. He spent the night in the self-catering accommodation and has been finding out more about Meldon's rich history.
Just the most fascinating historical document, this. It's the Bill of Works from 1832, the original, and it really illustrates how much money Isaac Cookson spent on this place. I mean, money was no object at all. But of course, Isaac did his descendants no favours because he saddled them with a house that costs huge amounts to run. And they don't have the money that Isaac Cookson had, and that's their problem.
To help raise funds for the house's running costs and renovations, Simon is keen to incorporate the family's existing activities and interests.
Morning, James.
Ah, Simon, how are you?
For the Cooksons, this means their love of all things horse-related.
Beautiful stables you've got here. What sort of state are the stables in?
They're okay. Unfortunately, the roof over this side of the yard is knackered. Say 4 years ago, the quote was 30,000 to replace, and I don't really want to be spending 30,000 to put a roof over my horse's head.
Simon is hoping that better opportunities lie within a short walk of the main house. The 1-acre walled kitchen garden has been the focus of James and Emily's commercial hopes for the last few years.
Do you want to come and have a look inside?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Come in.
Well, that's a good space, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's excellent, actually. Does a good job.
A substantial development grant contributed to the £230,000 costs of a cafe and conservatory dining room along the north wall of the garden.
Actually, do you want to have a look at the conservatory?
Yeah, absolutely.
But a succession of failed enterprises here has left the buildings empty, costing the Cooksons some £60,000 in upkeep and lost rents.
Well, wonderful space, isn't it? It's lovely view out there. Shame it's empty.
A crying shame, Simon, yeah.
How long has it been empty for?
Yeah, it's about 2 years.
2 years. And what was the original idea behind it?
We had it let out twice. It just didn't work. First tenant tried to get a restaurant
What
going.
sort of restaurant was it?
You're paying £5 for a bowl of soup. In this part of the world, that's quite expensive. We let it out again, and again, it didn't work, I'm afraid.
And why was that?
There's just not a lot of passing traffic. They didn't have enough business coming through the door.
Could you explain to me your decision on both occasions to lease it out, to go to a third party, as opposed to you yourselves doing it?
We're quite busy elsewhere, and time is short. To actually run this would have taken up all of our time.
The day-to-day running of the 3,800-acre estate and managing the 87 tenancies mean James has no time for developing other ventures. And with the income from the estate barely covering the outgoings, there's no money for extra staff. But if the Cookson fortunes are to be turned around, Simon knows that someone will have to make the time.
Morning, Emily.
Oh, hi, Simon. How are you?
Very good. So when people come and have a look around the garden at the moment...
Yes.
How's it work? They pay and come and walk around on their own?
Well, no. I think one of our fundamental errors, right from the word go, is we never charge for entrance into the garden.
I'm amazed by this setup here.
Yes, well, that was all down to James.
But you worked in there for a while. How was
For a
that?
short while. I loved it, actually. It was really good because I felt part of it, although it did conflict terribly with family life.
If this got up and running again, would you consider having an involvement in it?
It would very much depend what sort of involvement.
But you are aware that, there has to be an application and you've got to have to work and stuff to make it work.
Absolutely. I think we both don't know what to do, and to be honest, I'm a bit sick of it. So it's probably, I shouldn't say that, but I am.
More than 80 people live in the estate cottages or work on the farms at Meldon Park, and they all have a vested interest in the estate's continued welfare.
Cheers. Cheers.
Simon has arranged to meet a handful of them at a nearby public house to hear their thoughts on the walled garden and cafe.
You live in that cottage that's just
next to the
just by the walled garden.
Yeah.
And how did it go when they had the restaurant there?
They haven't done very well there, but there still seems to be a need for it because you get a lot of people coming in.
People drive in.
Looking for a cup of coffee.
Realise there's nothing there and then drive off again.
Very disappointed they are.
Yeah. So there's a demand, you think?
Yeah.
Mum with a young child, I often go for coffees and things with other mums on the estate, and you've got to travel all the way to Morpeth.
So just to have a coffee with your friends and children, you're driving 6-7 miles, isn't it, down the road?
When you could have just gone there.
I mean, we're the stables right next to it, and we would use it. We would go and have a break in there. We've got people that come up at the weekends to do the horses and stuff. You would nip in there and have a coffee and a bit of cake or something.
Obviously, it's a bit of a downer that there have been 2 efforts at this, and they've both failed. But if something was created to really try and give it a proper chance, is there a sense of enthusiasm of helping them make it work?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
With his research complete, Simon returns to Meldon Park to deliver his findings to James and Emily and to lay out his business plan for their financial future.
Now, it's a beautiful home, and that's precisely what it is. It's not a museum. It's not really viable for opening to the public, in my view, and I think it should stay like that. Secondly, the accommodation. Don't understand for a minute why it's only occupied for half of the year. In that respect, I think you should promote the idea with the self-catering as a place for people to come who have horses, who want to bring their horses with them away for a weekend. They can ride in the most beautiful countryside and stay in lovely self-catering accommodation.
The horse holiday business in the UK was worth £330 million in the last decade. If the Cooksons can increase their occupancy by just 10 weeks a year by targeting this lucrative market, then they would be looking at an extra £5,000 in turnover.
Now, I don't think it's going to be any revelation to you that I feel that the main focus of revenue is the walled garden and the restaurant area. I think it's very important that you view that area up there as an all-year-round focus of events and activity.
Simon wants to create a culinary hub, a focal point of food-related ideas that will exploit the fantastic produce available in the northeast and make the walled garden appeal to locals and those from further afield.
So essentially, you've got a cafe that's constantly bringing in money, and while they're there, hopefully they'll buy some plants. In the garden, there needs to be, a mass of activity and a mass of events. And I think if you create all that activity in the garden, then you can charge for people to come in. Not an enormous amount, but you can charge them to come in.
Although the Cooksons currently bring in an income of £10,000 selling produce at markets and through their Honesty Box scheme, central to Simon's plan will be the creation of a retail space within the cafe, which will help attract more visitors and increase their profits. He wants the Cooksons to work with local suppliers to source a wider variety of foodstuffs to sell, as well as marketing the produce that is already grown within the walled garden.
The Honesty Box system, while charming and admirable, I don't think is a particularly feasible way to earn any decent money. All that does, by having that Honesty Box at the gate, is detract people from coming to the main centre. I think it's much better if we scrap the Honesty Boxes and you get people to pay for things.
In the past, the food operation at Meldon Park was leased to outside tenants, giving the Cooksons no control of it. But, keen to harness their talents, Simon believes that taking charge of the culinary hub themselves will be the key to its future success and could generate a turnover of £65,000 in the first year.
It's very, very encouraging that you admit that you don't work well as a business couple. The next thing to do is to separate your roles. And I think, James, you should focus on the running of the estate and the farming and the forestry. And I think, Emily, you should focus on the kitchen garden and the hub. Now, I know you can see you're both looking slightly rabbit in the headlights. I'm not suggesting you do this all on your own.
We were trying not to have to employ anybody else.
Yes, but your time is already, by your own admission, completely chock-a-block. Yeah. But the reality is, if you don't employ anyone else, that's going to stay empty.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I was certainly sick of the kitchen garden. I had had enough, and so now I feel, right, we've got a direction and we must try and take it as best way we can.
Simon will return in just 6 weeks' time, when he will be expecting to see significant progress in the walled garden. But whilst Emily busies herself readying plants for sale, James is already having second thoughts about the direction that the new business will take.
I'm nervous about the food hub. We took it basically to mean a shop selling local and regional food. We've tried this before, and it was not a flyaway success. And I'd really like to think that we've learned from our mistakes in the past and that we don't go down that route again.
But, as he has suggested that Emily be in charge of the entire walled garden project, Simon has arranged for her to make a research visit to Alnwick Gardens, a half-hour's drive away. Over the last few years, Alnwick has undergone a substantial transformation and now attracts nearly 350,000 visitors a year, charging up to £12 per person. The garden includes many of the ideas that Simon wants Emily to try at Meldon Park, including growing, selling and serving food from a central conservatory hub. He hopes that touring it with the instigator of the project, the Duchess of Northumberland, will provide Emily with much-needed motivation.
Everything that I've learned over the last 17 years is that I assumed the most difficult part of what I've done here was in raising the money and building it. But without a doubt, it's the most difficult thing is management of it. You can't do it all yourself, but you can be responsible for standards and quality control. I think the other thing that I've really noticed here is that everything fits together. One can't stand alone of the other. So for people to use your cafe or a marquee or whatever, the core attraction has to be there. Whatever you do, you've got to make it different, either unusual, give it a USP, and really getting a buzz about the place.
Yeah. Having been to Alnwick, I came away with lots of thoughts, lots of ideas. Sadly, we're not on the same scale as them, so we're never going to be able to, come up with something as big as grand as Alnwick. But I definitely think we will be able to involve the whole community and the local suppliers and everything. So, but as Simon said, it becomes more of a sort of hub of people rather than just a standalone cafe being on its own with a garden.
Simon has asked Emily to arrange an open day for local producers to gauge their interest in the reopening of the walled garden. But when he returns, will he and the Cookson see eye to eye on the division of labour?
So I don't have full-time help with the children, I don't...
Yeah, but your children are at boarding school.
It's March, and Simon will soon be returning to Meldon Park to check on progress in the walled kitchen garden. James Cookson is hesitant about using some of the space in the garden cafe to sell food and produce.
Hi there, it's Emily from Kitchen Garden at Meldon Park.
But as Simon wants Emily to be in charge of the project, he's asked her to arrange for some of the local food producers and suppliers to come to an open day.
There'll be about 40 people there.
40?
But one of Simon's ideas has had a better reception from James. Inspired by the prospect of revitalising the self-catering accommodation, James has contacted Karen Johnson from Redlands Equestrian, a leading horse holidays company, to arrange a visit to Meldon Park.
There's a number of public rights of way, bit of jumping. It's pretty much rider's paradise, to be honest.
Yes, it looks it.
Although the historic stables next to the house need £35,000 worth of repairs before they can be further utilised, there are other stables on the estate, managed for the Cooksons by Rowena Old, that could be offered to prospective holidaymakers.
So this is the yard. So they're quite big boxes. They're all about 14 by 14.
And it's fairly easy to separate the horses on turnout?
Yes, there's individual paddocks as well as mixed grazing.
OK. It's a beautiful setting and it's quite unique. The equivalent would be to ride in the chateaux in France or in the castles in Italy. There isn't anything else that compares in the UK that we've currently got. And just riding around the estate, it makes you want to stay here for a few days and keep riding. So I think it will work really well. Coming for 3 or 4 days, I wouldn't have a moment where I was wondering what to do.
You're going to have to come for a week.
As Simon returns to see James and Emily after 6 weeks away, one thought is weighing on his mind.
What
What I really hope I find is that they define their roles and that Emily has been allowed to take on more responsibilities and been allowed to shine, and that James focuses on the things that he's good at.
His visit is coinciding with the open day for local food suppliers, which will kick off the efforts to relaunch the whole garden in April. But it's clear that Emily and James have not embraced all of his suggestions to increase their revenue.
Emily. Hello.
Oh, hello.
How are you?
Very well,
Very
you?
good to see you
And
again.
you, thank you.
I was pretty shocked when I came by. I thought the sign was great,
Right.
but it says admission free.
I think what our idea was maybe if we did events, then we would ask for a charge for people to come in.
The problem is if you establish it as free, it's incredibly difficult to then start charging people.
No.
I'm not suggesting that a lot of money is charged, and it could even be a voluntary contribution.
Right.
But I think a nominal fee could raise you £8,000 to £10,000 a year.
Right. Yeah, I'm just concerned that that's never been picked up on since you last left.
So am I.
Next, Simon wants to discover if Emily and James's working relationship has improved.
By your own admission, you said you and James were, wonderful married couple, dreadful business partners.
Yes.
Has he let the reins go a bit and allowed you to really take on this new project up here?
Yes, he's been very good about that. As I've said before, James holds the purse strings. So we're sort of taking one step forward and then I'm waiting. So it's just, obviously, it's quite difficult at the moment. But I've got a bank account open, but I've got no money in it.
I think it's a hugely wasted opportunity if you're not allowed to take on a project.
Yes, but it is difficult with timing. So I don't have full-time help with the children. I don't...
Yeah, but your children are at boarding school.
No, but by saying that, my children are away and that all I'm doing is, yes, the children are away, but there's still things to do. And I know that this is going to take a huge amount of time, and I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do it all.
Concerned that James isn't giving Emily the support she needs, Simon sets out to find and confront him.
Yeah, Emily tells me she's got a bank account now and hopefully for the business up here, but there's no money in it.
There is now, as of 10 minutes ago.
Brilliant. That's some seed money, essentially.
Yes.
OK. Now, what about the whole kitchen garden culinary hub?
I think that the retail of food is a difficult area. We've tried it before and it didn't work.
You've had two failures there. So that area, quite rightly, you thought it's just cost me a lot of money, people haven't come, and the food thing hasn't worked. What I'm saying is the food thing does work. If you take a month-long period, 2 Saturdays out of that month, there'll be a farmer's market where you can focus the marketing on it and get lots of people here. You don't try and do it every day. And then for 3 Fridays during that month, there's a guest chef that comes. There's always a cafe. The garden's always open.
You've obviously got all the ideas, Simon, yeah? And we're very happy to work with you, yeah? But, the visit to Alnwick was fantastic, I think, yeah? But it may have been useful to have seen somewhere else as well.
OK, well, did you not then decide to go out and do that? I mean, I'm not the fairy godmother. You seem to suggest that I will arrive and just wave my magic wand and suddenly money will fall from the sky. The point of me being here is to put you perhaps on a slightly different track, be a separate pair of eyes that looks at your relationship with Emily, and then collaborate with you. Now, in terms of allowing Emily to get on with it, she still led me to believe there was some frustration.
I'm only trying to offer support and help.
Really? Are you letting her get on with it?
Yeah.
The chance for James to prove this arrives in the afternoon. The cafe at Meldon Park has failed twice, costing the Cooksons thousands in lost rent and revenue. Simon believes that the best way to achieve success this time is to turn it into a focal point for local produce by enlisting the support of some of the North East's most important suppliers.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to try and find a space. Got so many people that we're short of space.
Well, the sun's shining down here on Meldon Park, which is a good omen. And we've got an enormous number of producers that have turned up here today from the North East, which I'm really thrilled about because it shows some enthusiasm from the people that will ultimately be the contributors to helping make this project work.
I'd like to welcome you all very much to coming to the kitchen garden at Meldon Park. James and I are passionate about the North East, locally produced food and drink, And with this in mind, we want to make it a focal point of the cafe culinary hub we are going to create.
Simon wants Emily to take this opportunity to forge valuable partnerships with the suppliers so that they can work together in the future.
I think you need unique things here to make this work, because there's a lot of competition out there, and I think if you can do something unique with training courses, demonstrations, and I think you're onto a winner here.
Have you got a pen and pad with you to write down these things, and who told you what?
Yes, well, I will go and get their details.
Because the crucial thing is, when there's a room full of people like this, you won't keep them all in your head.
No.
So, having had the chance to meet Emily and to see the cafe space, are the suppliers willing to support the relaunch?
We're a little bit choosy sometimes about where our products are, so we like to have them in a quality environment, and I think that's what we're seeing here at Meldon Park.
I'm fairly close by, so I can bring everything as fresh as possible, and I can definitely see this being an ideal place to sell my bread and my pastry.
But is the sceptical James finally convinced that a true culinary hub in the kitchen garden, including space for some of these products, is a good idea?
So you pleased with it? Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic, Simon. It's great to see all these suppliers here. You know, I've already spoken to two of them who have said that, giving examples about other setups, not dissimilar to us, but who are even more remote. You know, he gave me the example of this place and they said, you know, well, they get 70,000 visitors a year, so why the hell can't you? Yeah. So I think, no, it's good to see.
Excellent.
As the suppliers depart, Simon wants Emily and James to be aware of the hard work that lies ahead.
Really successful. And we've definitely, I feel like we've moved it forward. Sort of what happens next when I come back for the next visit. So I think probably the best thing to do is have the cafe element as much as possible up and running. Do a suppliers market with these people who are already excited. Have some planting of the vegetable garden going on. The other absolutely crucial thing I think is when the members of the public leave on that day, that you have provided with them an outline of the other activity, potential activity, that will be happening at Meldon Park Kitchen Garden over the next 12 months. So they come back, they don't think it's a one-off, and they can see that there's constantly going to be new activity going on.
I'm really encouraged by what I've seen here today. And James and Emily should be very encouraged as well. But of course, the true test will be when they can bring this all together, when they've got to do it for real.
I do now feel that I have got the freedom to move on without having to go and check with James. I don't have to involve him in every decision.
You know, we've had 2 disasters here, and it's third time lucky without a doubt.
With Simon's last visit timed to coincide with the grand opening of the walled garden in 6 weeks' time, work to get everything ready steps up into high gear.
This is my best job.
Now the bank loan of £20,000 has been made available, Emily has employed the staff that Simon suggested to help run the cafe. But it's clear that she will have to be a hands-on manager to begin with.
There is all the stock to unpack and put out. There is suppliers to get sorted. Everything needs to be priced. Everything needs re-cleaning, and so it goes on.
But there's one final addition to the cafe that will make Emily's life all the easier.
Oh, thank you. It's because I can't see the till. Yes. Perfect.
But when Simon returns for the grand opening, will the Northumberland weather put a dampener on everyone's spirits?
It's a real shame, this. You know, we've got a hailstorm now. It's really going to put people off.
It's April, and 6 weeks since his last visit, Simon Davis is travelling to Meldon Park for the last time.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the reopening of the kitchen garden, even in this robust Northumberland weather that we're having up here. I'm thrilled that James decided to release the funds so Emily could invest not only her time but also some money in this project.
And I hope that that has instilled in them a better working relationship.
Despite the inclement weather, Simon is anxious to see what progress James and Emily have made.
Great. Very smart entrance. Emily, hello.
Oh, hello, Simon. How are you?
Lovely to see you. This looks fantastic.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, how's it all going?
Oh, very busy.
Yeah.
Very busy. Too busy.
No, never be too busy. Excited, though?
Getting excited.
Yeah,
I can feel it taking shape now.
While there is still some work to do inside, the bank loan of £20,000 has allowed for a transformation from redundant space to productive enterprise. And outside, Simon is happy to discover that Emily has adopted one of his revenue-raising ideas.
Oh, brilliant.
Yes.
The honesty box. So you've suggested donation, £3 per adult.
Yes.
Monies received from your kind donation will help towards the cost of the continued restoration of the kitchen garden at Melton Park. And also, the way that's worded, it means people aren't feeling forced to do it. So, it's up to them. It's at their discretion.
Yes.
James seems full of beans. Is he been good and hands-off? And...
Yeah, no, he has been. I have to say, he's been very good.
I was just keen that if you wanted advice, you would go for him, as opposed to him just offering it without you asking.
Yes.
Now, I want to see the dragon.
OK.
This way?
Yep.
Brilliant.
Taking inspiration from her research trip to Alnwick, Emily has worked with local sculptor David Edwick on an idea which she hopes will put Meldon Park on the map.
Ah, the Meldon Dragon.
The Meldon Dragon.
So what was the idea behind this?
Well, the idea behind it was that we wanted to get something to gather the children and to bring them more into the Meldon Park and also get them out of the walled garden a bit so they come into the wild garden.
What's she called? Is it a she?
We think it's a she, but we don't really know yet.
No.
We're having a name the dragon tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the idea is that everyone will put the money in their pot and name her, and then we'll draw it.
How much are you taking off people for the naming
50p.
rights? That's a good idea.
Good, I'm glad you like it.
It's really good. Extremely impressed with James and Emily. Not only have they listened to a lot of my advice, but they've really picked up the baton and run with it. And that's the point of this exercise. Of course, the real success can only be gauged tomorrow. We just need a lot of people here and a lot of people who want to spend some money.
Three months since Simon first convinced the Cooksons to reopen the walled garden and cafe, the day of the relaunch has finally arrived.
Morning, Emily.
Morning, Simon.
Excellent, how are you?
I'm just doing a sign.
Inside, Emily is making last-minute preparations for the opening.
Do you like that?
Upcoming events, exactly.
Good.
All I would say is you need to put your website address on the bottom or something.
Simon's idea of combining the garden and cafe into a culinary hub, incorporating a retail space, has been fully embraced.
So here you've got your nominated suppliers. Fantastic. And some of these came to the event that we did the last time.
Yes, they did. Yes, most of them did. Yeah.
And this will change
every month, or when we add things into the menu is different. We will.
Yeah.
5 of the suppliers from the showcase have been invited to set up stalls, and the plan is that in the future, a regular rotation of others will be here in their place, splitting their profits with the Cooksons. James has the honour of buying the first coffee of the day.
Good man, thanks. I'll give you your spoon back.
But it's not long before the cafe starts to fill up, and Emily is rushed off her feet attending to customers and managing the staff.
All right. I'm not going to get in your way, but are you good?
Yes, I think
Happy?
so, thank you.
Selling
Yes.
lots of things, coffee machine's working?
Yes.
It's good and busy in there.
Yes.
I'll let you get on.
Thank
Well
you.
done. I'm so pleased to see how everything is filling up now. I mean, every table in here is taken. It's not even 12 o'clock yet. So hopefully all those efforts that they've made will really pay off.
The retail side of the operation is also thriving. But Simon knows that it will take a calendar of events to bring people back week after week.
It would have to be something slightly different to get the crowds up here, but I think there's opportunities to do all sorts of things with food, beer and food matching, looking at the events on the board and everything that's going to be going on. I think, they've got a really good chance of making a mark, really, because that's what they've got to do, isn't it?
Despite the threatening skies, the garden is proving popular. But Simon is concerned that some of the retail opportunities are perhaps being overlooked.
Yet again, they've made a really good effort in here. Really beautifully done. I'm a bit worried, though, that people don't know that they can come in here. I think if we've got another blackboard or something we can just put to the right of the door, just so people know that they can go in.
Yeah.
But the sign has no sooner been put out than the heavens open, and the Northumberland weather takes a turn for the worse.
It's a real shame, this. You know, we've got a hailstorm now. It's really going to put people off. However, they mustn't let this get them down, because the fact is what they've done is fantastic, and they're playing a long game here. And today is still a very positive start. Just need the sun to come out.
But on the positive side, with everyone driven indoors, the cafe continues to do a roaring trade.
Everything all right for you?
Yeah,
good.
And when the sun does return, the garden fills up once more. Putting on a range of different events and activities should ensure that word spreads and that the garden will appeal to locals and those from further afield.
About 3 years ago we used to come here, we used to call it the secret garden, and then we found out it was opening again and we just couldn't believe it.
We thought we'd just come along and get there like 15 minutes and that was it, and we just couldn't believe it. It's absolutely stunning.
We only live 5 minutes down the road. I can see us coming here again and again.
Well, if what I've had for my lunch today is anything to go by, I think it has a very bright future and I would recommend it to anyone.
The relaunch of the walled garden has been a great success. Takings for the day from the cafe, retail space, plant sales and honesty box amounted to £1,100. The cafe has proved a hit with locals, and James and Emily have a series of planned events over the coming months that should draw in the crowds. The self-catering accommodation is being marketed for horse holidays, and James is already planning to increase their capacity by making more rooms and stables available. Simon's business ideas have the potential to generate £70,000 in extra turnover and should allow the Cooksons to build up a much-needed renovation fund.
So, Emily, how do you think it went today?
It was good. It was busy, it was frantic, it was a bit mental, but no, people came, which was lovely.
It's great seeing you two working so well together. You know, I'll never forget that phrase when I first came here of great as a married couple, rubbish as business partners. But just seemed to me today, observing you, that the partnership as a business partnership actually has found a much more even keel.
No, definitely. Thank you.
Best of luck for the future.
Thanks, Simon.
And I will be back.
Thank you.
And I hope everything goes well.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Simon. Bye-bye. Most people, when they live in their homes, they have to deal with a personal relationship. But if you own a place like this, you have to have a business relationship as well. When I first came here, it was in tatters. Now, as I leave, it's on a much surer footing. And for that reason, I think the future of Meldon Park is far rosier than it was when I first arrived.
Great Fulford Manor near Exeter, one of Devon's most battle-scarred historic houses. Francis Fulford inherited this fortified mansion over 40 years ago and lives here with his wife Kishanda. But over the years, the house has fallen further and further into disrepair, and finally, the money has run out.
Landowners like me always call ourselves asset-rich, income-poor.
With their house crumbling, the Fulfords need it to start paying its own way if they are to preserve it for future generations.
was constantly money going out, and there never seems to be enough money to actually spend money on this.
They want forward-thinking entrepreneur Simon Davies to find a way to turn their decaying home into a viable business.
Is there anything else in the pot?
What do you mean?
Have you got any money?
The pot is empty.
But will Francis and Kashanda act on Simon's business advice?
So, what have you done about it so far?
I haven't done anything about it. That's it. No.
Go away! In the middle of fucking fucking, just shut up!
Great Fulford is a Grade 1 listed manor house near Exeter in Devon. Set in 3,000 acres, it's home to a couple accustomed to the media spotlight, Francis and Kashanda Fulford.
Well, I think I'm the 26th or 27th generation. For over 800 years, we have lived here.
But after a near millennium of clinging on to their house and estate, the future of Great Fulford is hanging in the balance.
The pot has been emptied. There's nothing left in the pot. So, future...
Actually, there's not just nothing left in the pot.
It's a minus
pot.
pot.
Minus pot.
Francis and Kashanda have 4 teenage children who are all away at school or on gap years. The eldest will one day inherit Great Fulford, so it's vital that their home survives for the next generation.
The aim has always been to pass it on to him in a better state than I received it.
Great Fulford gets an income from 10 tenanted farms on the 3,000-acre estate. But this goes towards paying off significant borrowings, leaving nothing to spare for renovations. And with the house itself earning less than £10,000 a year, the Fulfords have had to call in an outsider to help save their home and a vital part of our heritage.
Ah, now there's Great Fulford. It actually looks rather splendid. Damn sight better than I thought it was going to look.
With a proven track record in using new ideas to revitalise old businesses, entrepreneur Simon Davies will be staying at Great Fulford to formulate a plan that will transform this decaying relic into a thriving venture.
Quite so splendid when you get up close. Francis. Simon Davies, how do you do? Shanda.
Hello.
Hello, Simon Davies, how do you do?
Right.
It's just Great Fulford. I notice a few windows out at the front.
Yeah, well,
How old are your children? Just you 8?
They enjoy golf, cricket and football.
And one was yours with the golf ball.
I've never broken a window.
You have. You absolutely have broken a window.
Right, should we get on with it then?
Let's get out of the tow.
It's very cool.
To begin his research, Simon starts his tour of the house in the Great Hall.
Very grand.
Yes. This room is probably 600 or 700 years old. This is the old heart of the house, the first room anybody built. But the rest of the house, although it looks like it was all built at the same time, wasn't. You know, it's like a Hollywood film actress. The bones are ancient, but the skin changes.
At the moment, the skin's slightly wrinkling. I'd love to see some more of the house.
Absolutely. Let's lead on.
Well,
Personal
I've
guide.
seen round my house, so I don't need to look around again.
See you later.
Bye.
Leading him through the public rooms, Francis takes Simon to the grand staircase. Restored by his ancestor Colonel Francis Fulford in the late 17th century, it was designed to be an opulent showpiece.
This takes shabby chic to a whole new level, Francis.
I'd be disappointed if you weren't impressed by it.
And when was it last decorated?
Well, my mother had a crack at it in 1959, and so she put on this flock wallpaper, and it's a bit of a disaster.
Why don't you just take it down?
Some people rather like the look of the peeling wallpaper. Sort of Tracy Eminen's dirty tent or something, isn't it?
I've yet to meet them. And what happens up here?
Well, a grand staircase has to, by definition, lead to a grand room.
The huge first-floor ballroom has lain largely unused and uncared for decades.
What's this room used for at the moment?
Well, it isn't really used for very much. We have a licence to have weddings here.
When did you do the last wedding?
Our last one was last year. We got another one booked for this coming year.
How much money do you make of doing a wedding?
Well, we charge £4,500, I think.
Right.
For the location.
They pay £4,500
One location
and you
fee.
say, right, there you go,
Yeah, that's it.
do what you will.
Yeah.
Francis inherited Great Fulford at the age of 17 in 1969, when his father died. At the time, the rural economy was failing, but with the help of his mother, Francis held on to the family home.
My mother, who was a woman of great courage and was absolutely determined that we weren't going to go down like the Titanic and sink beneath the waves of country life. And so we fought on.
And luckily for Francis, when he brought Kashanda to Great Fulford, she was just as enamoured.
I thought it was the most romantic place I'd ever seen. It doesn't feel big to me, or to the children, it's just home. Come upstairs, let me show you where you're sleeping.
Thank you very much.
To get a better understanding of the problems at Great Fulford, Simon will stay the night to look for inspiration for his business plan.
That's Francis there, is it?
Yes, when he was about 30. I like it.
Very dashing.
Yes.
And how many bedrooms have you got up here?
Lots.
On the top floor, there are 8 ensuite guest rooms that Kashanda renovated a year ago, and which she hopes will bring in some much-needed income.
Anyway, here's your room.
Lovely. What do you charge people to stay in here?
With dinner and everything, £275 a night.
Have you had people coming to stay in them, though?
Well, yes, I've had my friends come to stay.
Right, your friends. They don't pay, do they? I'm pretty impressed with the bathrooms and bedrooms that Kashanda's done. The thing is, they're a bit of an island of hope in this house. I mean, all these jokes that Francis makes about wallpaper falling off the wall and it being like contemporary art, it's all well and good, but the reality is that the real joke here is that they've got huge potential and they're not making the most of it.
As part of his research, Simon is spending the evening with Francis and Kashanda to find out more about their financial situation.
Hi, Francis.
Hello, Simon.
Is that another piece of contemporary art?
It could be, couldn't it? But actually, there was a block drain pipe about 15 or 25 years ago, which overflowed.
So you've lived with that for nearly 25 years?
We get used to it after a bit. When I first married Kashanda, you know, they come in, the girls, and they want to do everything at once. And the key was actually to slow her down until she got used to everything.
Hi, Kashanda.
There she
Wars
is.
have ears.
With the income from the estate unable to support the badly needed renovations, Simon wants to know what the Fulfords make from the occasional wedding or event.
So I want to get down to a bit of nitty-gritty on some figures. What's the revenue here? What are you bringing in?
Well, I think last year, the year before, we're running between about 6,000 and 10,000 a year.
Right, 6,000 to 10,000.
And
Your costs, your running costs. Yeah.
The running costs of this house are about 20,000 a year.
Is that all?
We don't turn the heating on very often.
Well, I know that now. So that's running costs.
Yeah.
Now,
The
crucial
answer.
maintenance, such as sorting out the main hall with the wallpaper, how much would that cost?
25,000 to do the Great Hall.
I think that's not an estimate.
Darling, I'm
All
quite
the
good
paint
on
has
this.
to be stripped off the walls.
Darling, that peels off.
No, it
I am
doesn't
quite
just
good
peel
at
off,
it.
I
It
think.
would cost
25,000.
25,000. I would
Okay, well,
have
shall we just agree to disagree that it's
Yeah, I would agree to disagree.
£30,000 then, to do the staircase. Is there anything else in the pot?
What do you mean?
Have you got any money?
I know, I've said the pot is empty because the pot has been spent on the roof and the top floor. The house now has to earn its own pot.
So what would you like to be bringing in the first year?
Realistically, I think...
25 would be helpful.
I think everybody would be happy with that.
And are you a good team?
Well, Yeah, we quarrel a bit. We have differing views. Yeah, we have our disagreements.
I mean, no, Francis annoys me because he thinks things can be done later or tomorrow, and then I do it myself. We are a little bit laid back, and then that makes me cross, and then we have a row.
Do you ever want to move out?
No, I don't.
Well, sometimes it must get...
No, I really don't. I'd hate to move. I mean, it's home. I'd really like to do things that allow it to still be home. And not a hotel or...
Hold on, I'm listening to Kashanda.
Ooh. It's the first time you've been told to be quiet.
So it can earn its keep but stay as your home?
Yes.
With an income of less than £10,000 a year, Great Fulford must start to make more money if Francis and Kashanda don't want to be the last generation to live here.
I think it's very expensive.
I'm not dropping the price.
But for the house to survive, Simon needs a business plan that suits them both.
Please.
God, no, I don't
Please,
want to.
I don't care.
Well, I do.
I do care. She doesn't want to care.
Great Fulford, a Doomsday manor near Exeter, has been home to the Fulford family since 1190. A fortified mansion constructed around a courtyard, it was confiscated by the Yorkists in the 15th century during the Wars of the Roses. It was then garrisoned by the Roundheads during the Civil War of the mid-1600s, suffering severe damage. And in the mid-19th century, crippling debts meant that the house was nearly lost to the family forever. But throughout history, despite the house's gradual deterioration, the Fulfords have managed to hold on to it and its accompanying 3,000 acres of land. The estate currently brings in an income from 10 tenanted farms, but that mainly services the sizable debts, leaving nothing to spare for the pressing restoration works.
Car dogs!
But for Francis, who was born and grew up here, selling off his land to raise funds is not an option.
Am I rich? And it's a thing. Landowners like me always call ourselves asset rich, income poor. And so it's rather like that engagement ring on your wife's finger. I very much doubt she'd sell it or even take it off her finger unless you cut off her finger.
With Great Fulford's future on shaky ground, Francis and Kashanda have asked entrepreneur Simon Davis to try and save its remarkable heritage and to help them find a way to make this crumbling relic earn its keep. To get a complete picture of the Fulford situation, Simon has spent the night in one of the 8 bedrooms which Kashanda has restored with a view to renting out for £275 a night. But in the year since they've been finished, only her friends have stayed in them.
I had a very good night's sleep here last night. It's a pretty cosy bed, comfortable, quite warm, although I had an absolute army of electric radiators to keep me warm. They've really got to extend the central heating. But 275 quid for a night is absolutely ludicrous. I've stayed in some of the best hotels in the world and they've been less money than that. I mean, short of Francis creating the universe's greatest breakfast, I can't see how that's good value for money.
Well, did you sleep all right, Simon?
I slept very well, Francis. You?
Yeah.
Very good. Is this your speciality?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
While Francis joined Simon for breakfast, the lady of the manor is nowhere to be seen.
Is Kashanda joining us for breakfast?
Well, probably not at this early hour, no.
Yes, it is 9:15.
Well, yeah. Well, it depends. I shouldn't think so, no.
Built for entertaining, Great Fulford has a large ballroom, dining room and great hall, all standing empty and underused. Thinking that salvation may lie in these huge public rooms, Simon has called in events organiser Abby Adams for a second opinion.
It could be absolutely beautiful. Needs some work, needs tidying up generally.
Abby organises some of the Southwest's most prestigious weddings, parties and corporate functions.
It really could be a wonderful venue.
Is there anywhere else like this around here? Or?
This, I would say, is quite unique. I don't know of anything else like it around Devon or Somerset, so...
But in 2 years, these rooms have hosted just one wedding. Perhaps price could be a factor.
How much do you reckon they're trying to charge at the moment?
The one room that I see as usable at the moment, I don't think you could ask more than £300. It's dry hire.
So if I told you that they were asking £4,500
for the...
just for the hire...
I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked. I think if the rooms were all up to standard and the hallway, the grand stairway, then yes, easy. I think 4,000 for the 3 rooms. But at the moment, I'm absolutely shocked.
Quite clearly, charging £4,500 for a wedding here is completely bonkers. I mean, you might get one a year, but that's not going to save Great Fulford. But take that ballroom, for example. Now, that is a fabulous space. What's needed is some lateral thinking to come up with some ingenious ideas that will provide returning, paying customers. Only then can we create some real wealth here and start sorting out the problems.
The Fulfords also plan to make money from their 3,000-acre estate. They are currently negotiating a deal to lease some of their land to a game shooting syndicate. And they also hope the shooting guests, known as guns, might stay in the 8 renovated guest bedrooms. But on top of the shoot costs, they want to charge £275 per room. Convinced that this is too much, Simon is meeting the sporting agent Annette Cole.
So just so we're clear on the numbers here, how many days shooting potentially could there be?
Up to 30 days.
And on each of those 8 guns?
8 guns who stay 2 nights.
Right, and how much would they pay for the shooting?
They'll pay anywhere between £1,500 and £2,000.
Right, and that goes to the company that's organising the shoot.
That's correct.
And what about for the potential accommodation in the house?
Potentially, if the product is right, it can be up to £300 per night, but that's got to be all in, and it's got to be quality. It's got to be really good food. The alcohol's got to be within that price. It's got to be warm, comfortable surrounding. The customer service has got to be spot on, because these are top-end businessmen you're talking about on these sort of shoots.
It's becoming clear that the room pricing could be critical to the success of the shooting enterprise. Although Kishanda has spent time and money restoring the bedrooms, there seems to be no sense of urgency about actually letting them out. But time is not on the Fulford side, so Simon decides to confront her.
How do you do your pricing?
Francis puts a figure on it, and I'm not dropping it. I'm not.
I think it's very expensive for what it is.
Bath mats.
Thank you. You do want the house to make more money?
I'd love the house to make more money. Sorry, those are different. You're not being helpful, you see. That is linen rather than cotton.
OK, well, I'll put that on the linen pile then.
Linen is better than cotton.
Is that why you charge so much money?
Yes. Look, if you go to London...
Yeah, we're not in London, though, are we?
No, but also you're in a stately home.
Yes, but I've stayed in houses better than this, and it's been less expensive.
Well, I'm not dropping the price.
With Kishanda refusing to listen to his business advice, Simon needs to persuade the Fulfords to change their ways and start thinking of their home as a business before centuries of history are lost forever.
Francis is very proud of his family's 800-year history here at Great Fulford. He has every right to be. In the 15th century, you had Sir Baldwin de Fulford, who had a very distinguished career during the 100 Years' War. Then there was Squire John, who squandered an enormous amount of money and built the lake. And then there was Colonel Baldwin Fulford, who extended on the Regency side of the house, but his son, he was a real bad boy. He was Baldwin the Bad. He managed to accrue debts of almost £6 million in today's money. So Francis has a decision. Does he want to be remembered as Francis the Failure or Francis the Financial Saviour?
The Fulfords' history is at a crucial turning point.
Hello, Simon.
Hello, Francis.
Simon must now deliver his business proposal to save Great Fulford. But again, there's no sign of Kashanda.
You're looking very alone. Where's Kashanda?
She's fine. I don't know where she is.
Is she coming? Ah, Kashanda.
Hello, darling.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for joining us.
I think this is like being at school. I'm sorry.
No, don't
I should
apologise.
be
I know
more
it's very-
gracious. I'm going to be more gracious.
The first thing I want to say is I genuinely think you are sitting on a gold mine. I really do. I don't say that lightly.
The Fulfords will have to work hard if they are to turn this gold mine into a serious source of income. Starting with their wedding business, Simon wants them to be more realistic about their prices.
Now, at the moment, you've been offering weddings at £4,500.
Yeah.
So I got someone in who specialises in weddings. When she saw the rooms and was told how much you were charging, but she said for the state that these are in, it was an obscenely large amount of money. Having said that, were it to be done up moderately, she believes that you could potentially do 20 weddings a year, charging a more modest 2,500 to 3,000.
With this more representative pricing structure, the Fulfords could turn over up to £60,000 a year from weddings alone. But Simon wants them to think beyond marriage ceremonies to other events which could bring customers back time and time again. He's had an innovative idea that makes use of the large empty ballroom.
My view is that we create the Fulfords Film and Food evening here, essentially creating a pop-up country house cinema.
Open-air summer film screenings at country houses are gaining in popularity. But by using their huge indoor spaces, Simon wants the Fulfords to create a year-round monthly cinema club. For a small amount of effort, it could bring in an extra £9,000 profit a year.
Guests arrive, you have a chef cooking in the Great Hall, then they go upstairs, we have a temporary cinema set up, you could potentially package it up and they can stay in the rooms. And I think it's achievable. It doesn't require an enormous amount of capital expenditure.
I will say I do think that is a very good idea.
Thank you, Kashanda.
I have
It's
to.
all-
I mean, I have to say,
You think it's a good idea?
I think it's a very good idea.
One area where Simon believes the Fulfords are on the right track is their plan to lease some of their land for game shooting. Francis is already in negotiations with a shooting syndicate, but Simon believes that unless Kashanda drops their room prices, they will be missing out on vital extra income.
Now, in terms of the accommodation, I love staying in the room that you did upstairs. It was really comfortable, really warm once I got my electric radiators going. But not all the rooms are of that standard. I think £275 is an absurd amount of money to charge for that room based upon the thousands of hotel rooms and B&B rooms I've stayed in my life.
You say 275, which is not, of course, the rate for a room. It's the rate for the room with dinner, with all the drink you require.
How many people have stayed in those rooms?
I only had
sorry,
one.
Darling, you can...
No,
I don't
please,
want to.
I don't care.
Well, I do.
I do care. She doesn't want to care. She doesn't get it. But the
Come on,
point
Kashanda.
is...
There's no point walking out.
What you say, is because...
Francis, why did you leave?
Well, because you can't see the point. The point is, here you get into a private house.
Yes, but
I'm
Francis,
sorry,
you're
but
not-
we are not competing.
You're
we are
missing
not
the point.
competing
those
with
guns.
a hotel.
I know.
We are not a fucking hotel.
I know, but the point is that all this offer of, oh, you can come and you can stay and it's like you're in my house, lots of people don't want that. No. The idea of spending £275 is going to be anathema to most people. I promise you, it is too much money.
As Simon departs, it's clear that dealing with the Fulfords is never going to be straightforward when they have such differing personalities.
Because we are, I suppose, a bit chalk and cheese, I'm a laid-back one, and she's the more het-up one, so to speak. And sometimes she gets her knickers in a twist about something, and when reason is not her big issue on that time.
Kashanda, I can't make her out. No, she says she really likes the idea, and then she
acts like a sort of petulant child and runs off out of the room. Anyway, hopefully, by the next time I come, we can move on and try and sort out the problems.
OK, boys and girls, let's crack on.
But when Simon returns in 6 weeks and Francis hosts a trial shooting event, will he show off the best of Great Fulford?
You know, you do like a fairly slick operation.
It's January, and several weeks since Simon Davis delivered his business plan to Francis and Kishanda, life continues at Great Fulford with very little change. As well as addressing their shooting syndicate and wedding business, Simon wanted them to create a pop-up cinema in the disused ballroom. But it's still standing empty with no sign of a screen. Having had time to think, Kishanda, although initially enthusiastic about the cinema idea, has changed her mind.
Well, I thought about it, and then I thought actually it didn't work at all. But watching a film is very static, and I don't think this house is built for sitting like a lemon for 2 hours. It's Francis, he was so sweet. Now that's the valley I'm named after, Kishanda Valley. What I'd really like to do is just say to Simon that it doesn't sound fun to me, and that perhaps we could come up with something else. And he might help, which would be nice.
"70 miles east of Great Fulford, in the neighbouring county of Dorset, is Minturn House, a stately home with a thriving wedding business.
Minturn Estate?
As the Fulfords refuse to change their fees for weddings or their guest rooms, Simon has asked them to visit Henry Digby, hoping that the high standard of Minturn's interiors will show them that they're pricing themselves out of the market. But Francis has come alone.
So maybe we'll find out from Henry whether my pricing is quite so bad as Simon thinks it is, and my ideas are quite so stupid. We'll wait and see.
Good morning,
Hello,
Francis.
Henry.
How are you? Good
I'm
to see you.
very
Come
well,
on in.
thank you. Get out of a cold.
Its impressive public rooms, which include a double-height gallery, mean that the Digbys can command up to £5,000 per wedding.
Right, as you can see, this is the drawing room.
This is a cracking room, Henry. It's a glorious position for a house.
Yeah, it's really a question of keeping the decorations up, because I think people do expect to have something that's pretty well decorated. Right, this is,
But it's Henry's pricing of his high-quality bedrooms that Simon really wants Francis to learn from.
On the normal course of events, you rent out these rooms at £190 a crack.
Yeah, that's right. And that's on the basis of bed and breakfast.
Yeah, because, I just did see, because, again, Simon was criticising me because I was saying that our price is £275 for a room, but that includes dinner with unlimited alcohol. So we're not actually that far adrift on our pricing. Well, this has been a very, very interesting visit. He and I are really singing from the same hymn sheet. His philosophy seems to be very much in accord with my thoughts.
But Henry Digby seems less convinced that he and Francis are on the same track.
I think the price of, I think it was £275 for a room, which includes dinner, my perception is that that would be quite a high price. You don't want to be perceived to be twice the price of everybody else. And putting it perfectly bluntly, you're in a highly competitive marketplace.
Nearly 6 weeks since he delivered his business plan to the Fulfords, Simon Davis is returning to check on their progress.
Brett!
You're dressed for rustic life, as opposed to dressed for town life. And a purple jersey.
Yeah, I know.
To go with it.
How are you? Lovely to see you.
To test the Fulfords' hospitality, Simon has asked them to host a trial shooting weekend, so Kishanda must prepare the food for her guests.
Do you want a hand, then?
Yeah, okay. Well,
Right, Simon. I
Not
need
with-
to leave you to Kashanda's
All right.
tender mercies, and
All
I'll
right,
see you
okay,
later.
I'll see you later. I'll see you
Okay.
later.
On his own with Kashanda, Simon takes the opportunity to inquire about progress with the film club.
And how are we doing on the cinema idea?
That was a bit of a fib. Sorry.
What do you mean it's a bit of a fib? You now don't think it's a good idea?
No.
Why not?
Because, A, I don't want to do it because I can't bear the thought of sitting around watching a film when you could be
It's not for
talking.
you, though.
I know.
Yeah.
But the house isn't designed for that. The house is designed to... It's big. You're meant to be able to make a noise. And I'm not... I don't want to do it because of that. And then I did the maths, and it doesn't stack up. So I'm not doing
That's
it.
weirdly, I've done the maths, and it does stack up.
It's really not something that would amuse me. And so therefore... it
Well, if
would
you're
just
not going to
be-
be into it, it's never going to
It
work,
would
is it?
just
Let's be
be...
honest. So
it
we'll
would
agree
be-
to
it would
disagree, because
be-
I'm here. We're here to try and come up
It
with
would
something
be
that you
sort
want
of
to do.
huge drudgery for me.
Key thing, though, is what idea do you think would work?
I think to have a jazz club is to recreate Ronnie Scott's here one night a month.
And how much do you think you could charge people to come?
About £48.
So, what have you done about it so far, in terms of actually making one happen?
What have I done about it?
Yeah,
I haven't done anything about it.
right. Now, I'm fully prepared to give up the tussle over the cinema night. Kashanda loves the idea of a jazz supper club, and she's enthusiastic about it. And you'll never be successful with any event if you don't have enthusiasm.
With a fresh idea on the table, Simon wants to harness Kashanda's newfound passion for her jazz club and try and turn it into a viable business model.
Marketing it, obviously, good ideas are all well and good. We need to get people here. So it's letting people know it's happening. And we need to shape the idea. It needs to be sort of branded up a bit as a jazz supper club.
No,
evening.
because it is a club. It's called
It's
the
a
Bear Club.
Yeah, so you'd have a certain number of
And then they
these
have a
events.
darling little card with the bear's head bear on it, so that they've got, you know, are you not a member of the Bear Club? And then
Why shouldn't it be? It should be the Yak Club.
No, because the bear up is our motto, which is what I'm doing at the moment, bearing up.
Great.
Now that Kashanda's enthusiasm is restored, Simon turns his attention to Francis, who is hoping to offer shooting parties, with guests staying in the 8 refurbished bedrooms. To test their hospitality, Simon has asked the Fulfords to host a free trial shooting weekend for a group of industry experts.
Come on, dogs.
However, Simon is disappointed that these important visitors won't be staying the night.
I was hoping tomorrow night that the Guns, after they'd had their day shooting their lunch, would be staying the night. They should be staying there tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, we did say that.
Yeah, but you were going to charge them. You should see it as a marketing opportunity. I think if you can get your head around the fact that the best marketing you could do is actually let people see their product, it'll be money well spent.
Yeah, but it'll be money well spent.
And it won't actually be money you're spending. You're just, you know, it's in lieu of not having someone paying for that room for one night. They spent all this money doing up these rooms, and I've invited these people down who potentially are going to be big spending customers in years to come. You know, they're giving them lunch, but they're charging them for lunch. They should let them stay in the rooms for free. It's the best marketing you can do.
It's the morning of the Fulfords' trial shoot. The guests are some of the industry's most influential experts, whose opinions could shape Great Fulford's reputation as a shooting business.
We've got a couple who do a lot of shooting, corporate guy who spends a lot of money going out shooting, and a guy who runs a company that organises shoot syndicates.
Okay. Francis Fulford.
Hello there, Francis. Robert Cuthbert.
Robert Cuthbert runs high-end shooting parties at country estates charging up to £30,000 per weekend. With their shooting event reduced to just one day, it's more crucial than ever that Francis puts on a good show for these important guests.
You got your ear defenders in, darling? Good out.
Normally, they would pay up to £300 per day, and for that money, they expect the best. But after 2 hours in the cold, the hospitality seems somewhat lacking. Simon sends Francis off to get some refreshments and takes the opportunity to find out the guests' first impressions.
11s, that's hugely important, especially for a girl. You know, guns don't like standing around forever. You know, you do like a fairly slick operation.
If he's going off for 11s now, somebody needs to be here hosting, making sure that the guns who may have paid £250, £300, you know, per gun per day, are being looked after.
Guns, you have 11s up here.
Returning, Francis hopes that some hot drinks will be enough to win his guests over.
Cheers. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Thank you, Francis.
Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Got
Lovely
rolls.
Lovely park.
Got your sausage rolls.
No, bad luck.
So you're taking out the oil.
Don't worry, you're having lunch in an hour. This is the last drive, all right? Then we go up for lunch.
Okay, unload.
Kishanda may have cooked the meal, but once again, she's nowhere to be seen.
Right, help yourself.
Meaning Francis must play host to their important guests on his own.
I won't, thank you, I'm driving.
Okay.
Thank you.
Although today is supposed to be a free trial, Francis has charged his guests £50 a head for lunch. But despite the hefty price, he's still convinced that his less formal approach to hospitality is what people want.
I remember years ago we had a party of Americans here, and my Labrador got on the table and started walking down the centre of the table, eating on people's plates. And I could see my client's wife about to explode with rage.
I can't think why.
And nor can I. Until one of the American wives, a big client, said, "Oh, isn't that the cutest thing you've ever seen? Isn't that the best?" And of course it was the best, because it was ethnic. It was like proper life.
But his guests, who represent some of the country's most influential shooting clients, don't quite share Francis's vision.
Where you aren't going to succeed at the moment is if it's a corporate group. You need to be really much more slicker than you are.
For pound, it doesn't come close. A considerable amount of investment needed in order to get it, if you're aiming at the top slice.
Hi folks, take care.
Bye-bye.
Anyway, so
Hopefully they'll come back.
Well, you never know. You just don't know.
As the shooting day draws to a close, Simon wants to make a serious point before he leaves.
One of the best things is that Kishanda's got excited about this jazz club, supper club evening here.
And I've said to Kishanda, I will help in any way I can with the marketing of it, trying to get some people here, giving her advice on how the whole evening may run, work with her on that, and try and use it as a real launch pad for creating a lot of excitement about great food.
Well, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see.
This is about making money. I mean, it can be the kickstart, the catalyst for creating more events here to get people to Great Fulford, to stay in the rooms and to spend money. Agreed?
Yeah. Simon,
so can I...
We're all on side, really. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Simon will return in 3 months' time. So will he be disappointed? Or will the Fulfords rise to the challenge of throwing their first jazz club evening? It's April, and in the 3 months since Simon Davis last visited Great Fulford, plans have got underway for the launch of Kishanda's Jazz Club. When she rejected Simon's country house cinema idea, he agreed to support her venture, providing it was marketed properly and had the potential to create a regular income for Great Fulford. So Simon is back to see if she's lived up to her side of the deal.
I genuinely hope that Kishanda has managed to turn her jazz night party into a commercially viable venture. But going on past form, I wouldn't say I'm brimful of confidence.
Hi, Kishanda.
Hello, how are you?
Lovely. How are things for the party?
Absolutely fine, thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. You're still doing your jazz?
Yeah, they're all coming later for a practice.
Good. How many people have you got?
About 90 or something.
Great. Looking forward to it?
Yes.
Good.
I really do need to get on there.
Kashanda appears reluctant to give Simon any detail about the jazz club.
Hello. Hi. Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you. Oh, this is Tony, who's the saxophonist.
Hi, Tony. Hello. How are you? Sorry, my hands are freezing. That's okay. Great.
Philly, I've had the piano all tuned up for you, and you know they dusted and polished it for you. Beautiful. Sounds great, doesn't it? Fantastic. Tony, what do you think of the acoustics? They're fun, aren't they?
Suspecting that Kashanda's event is a one-off party, rather than the launch of a regular money-making event, Simon wants to find out who'll be attending.
What, are they local or from further afield? Or?
I can't tell you because it's private.
Right, but they are paying punters. I'm just trying to drill down into how much you're actually making out of your
I don't want to talk about money at all, OK? Not at all. It's not fun, it's not relevant, and I'm having a party. Let's go and try the ballroom piano. Yeah. Cannot wait for tomorrow night.
With his worst suspicions apparently confirmed, Simon decides to confront Kashanda.
Ostensibly, it's a party for your mates, isn't it? It's not a business, it's not a business.
Get your facts right, OK?
OK, well, tell me the facts.
No, I can't be bothered.
I'm
afraid.
Please tell me the facts.
No.
Why not?
Because I want to get on. I'm going to really enjoy myself. I've got the lighting man coming when it's dark.
I just feel like you haven't
go.
wanted me here. There's no point of me being here. Like it's a waste of my time, at all. Like a waste of my time.
I'm really sorry to have wasted your time. You've slightly wasted mine. That's it. That's it. I said to you, if you were aggressive to me...
It's not aggressive.
It is, and it's tiresome, and I said...
It's the truth.
No.
It's the truth. Well, there we have it. Doesn't like the truth. But the simple fact is, this is a party for their friends. You can't expect your friends to come to your house every week and spend £65 on a ticket. I wasn't brought here to support a private party. I was brought here to come up with good, viable business solutions. This isn't one of them. I've wasted my time.
5 months ago, with their house earning less than £10,000 a year, but costing more than double that in running costs alone, the Fulfords asked Simon to find a way to save it. Now, with his business plan in tatters, Simon goes to bid farewell to Francis.
I had a job to do here, and I feel like I've wasted my time because of that, because you haven't taken on those ideas. I'm disappointed that you've wasted the opportunity, and because of that reason, I can't quite see why I should stay here.
Oh, don't go away. What are you doing? Oh, don't, we're talking. Just go away. Just go away. I'm in the middle of fucking fucking. Just shut up. Oh, this is so stupid sometimes. Fucking just...
I'm not having a go. I was here to help.
Okay.
You know, that was the point.
Certainly, you're right. The party idea is a party, will be fun, but it is not a thing you can repeat every month or on a regular basis. No, that's quite correct. It's not a long-term business idea. Maybe in a year or two, things will look positive. We don't feel we have to be in a rush, in a hurry, to do things. We will coast down the river rather than making a lot of splashing.
We'll agree to disagree on that. It's been...
Okay,
it's
Simon.
Been an experience, Francis.
Well, I hope so. It'd be so boring if it wasn't one.
It would. I hope that some of my ideas do actually take flight one day. All right.
Having dedicated his time to trying to save Great Fulford for future generations, Simon must now leave the fate of this historic house hanging in the balance.
It's all very well slamming doors and running away, but the fact is you can't run away from your responsibilities of owning a house like this. While I may feel that my time has been wasted here, Really, it's Francis and Kashanda who are the time wasters. And by ignoring everything I've said, I think their time at Grey Fulford could be running out.